Slurply derp. All right, my G's. Thank you guys so much, everyone who was on the live stream yesterday. It really put me in a great mood, that stream, just to see our whole community, not only the patron supporters, but also other people on YouTube joining in. And it was just good vibes all around. And I really appreciate all of you guys for that. So today I just wanted to do a really small tutorial answering one of your questions from Tendo Music. Big ups to you. Do you always use a separate sub bass? What if the sub within the patch sounds great as it moves with the mid bass? Do you then just turn off the sub on the patch, then turn off the other bits to have just sub? Last question, what about if I'm using a bass sample and the sub is in the sample? Do you still use a sine and EQ off the sub in said sample? Thanks, G. So the answer is, for me, it's quite simple. This is just the way I work again. Obviously, there's different people who have different approaches. But when it says that the sub is already in the sample, to me that sounds like a good thing. I wouldn't be trying to get rid of it. And like again, when you said, do you then just turn off the sub on the patch and turn off the other bits to have just sub? Like, no, absolutely not. So how I do it is all the subs are usually built into the patch already. So I never separate the sub from a sound unless it's like particularly awful, and in which case I need to like reinforce it with a fresh one underneath. That's the only time I would do that, but that's quite rare. So I tend to use always the sub that's already inside it, because yeah, like taking it out and then adding in a new one is like it's never like a super easy and smooth and slick job, So I do that job when I have to, but I try to avoid it. Yeah. So if you look at, for example, like this is from my current pack Dimension, and all of the preset packs that I make, I tend to like put the sub in there as well. Like in most of the patches, the sub will be already on it, So this is like one of them. It's called the Delay of Ages, and in the beat it sounds like this. Now if I look on span, I might feel like the sub looks good, but I might feel like it's slightly low. And in that case, if I think it's a little bit too weak still, then I'll just turn it up in the patch. So I'll go here to find where the sub's coming from. Turn it up here. And there it sounds great to me. So there it's like... bit more in that desirable volume range I always aim for, between -30 and -36 on the default settings on span. It's right in the middle, which is where I kind of want it. So that's, in that case, like on that patch, the sub was like slightly too weak, and so just turned it up in the sound already, And all of my presets tend to come with like they're all like in stereo, so they've got like effects on, like chorusing and stuff like that. So obviously you want to keep your sub in mono. So all I then do is do a bit of mid-side EQing. I don't have to separate it. I'll just mid-side out the stereo, the low end. So we'll just put that on. I think it's already pretty well done inside the patch on this one. But yeah, just something like that, for example, would clean it up a little bit more. And there, it sounds fine. I don't feel the need to have to separate it, because there's not really a place where I need to treat the sub differently than the mid bass, because I can always use multiband sidechaining or multiband saturation. So I'm a big fan of using multiband effects, so I can always process the bass separately from the sub using multiband tools. So that's how I do it. I always leave the sub bass in, unless I really need to improve it dramatically and add a new one in, which sometimes happens, and I'll show you that in a moment. Here's another one, like another current patch, same kind of deal. Again, in this one, I feel like if I look on span and if I hear the sub, it's quite low in that one again, but just going into the patch and turning it up again here. I get it in a much nicer range there already. little bit on the low side. So perhaps that could be one to separate and redesign together. But I think I can probably turn it up a bit more. Yeah, bordering on distortion now, so I could probably go in the patch and do a bit of cleaner filtering to let the sub bass come through by sort of filtering out. For example, in current you can filter out the other wavetables here. So this main section I could potentially add like a little bit of a low pass filter, a high pass filter, if I can know where actually to find that. Yeah, I could maybe add one of those in there. Clear a bit more room for the sub so I can turn it up a bit more. But yeah, as you can see, most of the time I'm writing my tracks using my presets. So that's generally how I work. I tend to do always leads and bass using my own designs, just because that's what I'm good at doing, so why not use them, But yeah, in that case I've managed to make more space within the patch to actually turn the sub up in there. And so that then... Yeah, that's pretty much loud enough for that particular sound. But yeah, the first one particularly, that's a more realistic bass that I'd probably use to write a track, And that definitely is in a great range there with the sub level, So I could definitely use that as my foundation for the low end, I wouldn't need to mess around. And for example, like this one, it's a bit more of a lead sound anyway. So if the sub bass on this one is for example a little bit lower, like that's not really the end of the world. I could just use it like a bit less in the track, And that the sub on that one might be a bit lower, but that will probably just add a nice dynamic edge to the mix down anyway, so that's fine. But yeah, what if you don't have enough sub in the sample, or what if the sub's not good enough? So let's say over here I've got like over here I wanted to add in like a little one shot from like a sample pack or something, But this one it's like it's got some sub in, but it's like clearly not enough. You can see in the waveform it's quite weak, It's got this little subby pop, but it's quite awful. So how would I do that? Then I would replace it. So then I would just add a sine wave in underneath. And yeah, I've just gone straight, like no movement on it. It's quite a short sound. So this is the other thing to note in this video, right? Because people always ask and they talk about like how the movement of the sub has to follow the mid bass or follow the bass, and that is actually a bit of something you can overthink, really, because when you're talking about a sub bass that's down here, it's a big lump of audio, right? And it's either on or it's off. Like there's no movement you can do within it. Like it's like a bit of detuning, a bit of tremolo. I mean, you're not really filtering it because you filter it at all and it's gone. It's just one big lump of audio in the low end. It's basically it's either on or it's off. So that's the movement that's involved, really. So you have to think about it like that. Like it's a very simple sound. Like imagine you're in a big club with big speakers. Like when you're hearing the sub, it's like, is the sub on or is it off? Like there's not really anything else going on there, So when it comes to like layering it in, it's basically like how long are you holding the note for, and maybe you're side shading it a bit. Maybe there's some volume movement, but it's really not going to be too much work to do usually, So for example here, I mean, it doesn't really make sense to program in this whole filter movement into it because it would just be gone, It's such a short note anyway. You might as well just leave it on as like a sub splash, So I'd probably just leave it like that. And then in this original sample then, which had that kind of weak sub part to it, yeah, we'll just take that out, maybe a couple of EQs till it's all gone. and then add that sub back in. Yeah, because it's so short, you know, that would warrant just a short little sub stab. That would be fine. So that's how I would do that, you know. So sort of reinforcing. Reinforcing it with just a sine wave underneath. Yeah, I've just used the current one again because that sounds really good. From the yeah, it's just the current. What's it called? Oh my goodness, my windows are going all over the place. Sorry. It's just the subsection in current and mono on one partial, and I'll drive it and knock it a bit as well. So it's sort of adding a little bit of a pitch drop to it, so it has a little bit of a punch to it as well there, you know. But yeah, if you had a longer sample where you needed to replace the sub, you needed to put a new sub underneath, then you might have to write the sub pattern to like fit with the movement. Yeah, so if it's a really like longer complex bass line, then yeah, sure, you're gonna have to like follow the notes and, you know, replace the sine waves correctly. But you can usually just use the rhythm and sort of just play in your MIDI to sort of follow the rhythm of the bass. But you haven't really got to worry too much about, you know, adding in like filter movement into the sub or something like this. It's basically just like, when is it on and when is it off, really, you know. And then, you know, when you sidechain it as well to your bass, that's going to add some more movement into it again, so it'll like naturally fit in the track a bit better. But yeah, that's basically how I do it. So long answer to your question, but more times than not, my sub is already built into the bass, into my bass preset. I don't generally then separate the sub bass and put a new one in. I only really ever do that if I'm dealing with something where the sub is just really terrible and doesn't have enough and needs more. Then I will like do that and put a reinforcement sub in. But 90% of the time, I don't separate the sub. It's already in the preset. It's already in the bass, and I'll just use clever processing, including mid-side EQing, multiband sidechaining, multiband saturation, so that I can process the sub, keep the sub clean, and process the other parts of the bass if I want to, with layering or multiband distortion or something like that, while keeping the low end clean. But I don't need to like separate into two audios, you know. So hopefully that helps. That's just the way I roll, and for me that's quite a simple way to work, and it involves a lot less stress treating it like that. And I'm quite happy with most of the low end on my tracks with this method. So thank you very much, my G's. May I remind you before I go, one-on-one lessons are available. You can book me as your personal tutor and guide and help you advance your music and level you up in whichever areas you feel you are weak. You can just find the links down below to my calendar. Yeah, as I mentioned, these current sounds are my latest current pack called Dimension, but I've also got loads of Vital and Faceplant preset packs and bundles on my website as well. And yeah, if you guys want to support the channel, best way to do it, you can become a member on the channel if you want, but you'll get more benefits if you join Patreon, because that's where I'm a little bit more active, posting stuff, and especially in our Discord, that's really the heart and soul of our community. Alright, mixing and mastering as well is available if you want to email me for any of your work to get mastered. You can guarantee it'll be a hell of a lot better than any AI program that you can find. Alright, my G's, have a great rest of your day. More from me soon. Much love.